Like,
Baby. Okay. I'm
so,
scared. I've
so,
never done this. What are you doing to me? Oh,
hey, buddy. Well, thank you for coming in. I really appreciate that. This is a new journey that I've been kind of on, and I'm trying to figure it out in the creative space. But for me, this is what feels natural, and I feel like I'm just kind of naturally gravitating towards it. So I really appreciate you coming on. How you been?
I'm good, man. I really am. And dude, like you're my closest friend. So like anything I could do to help support you, man. But I love the setup. I gotta say, I love the setup. I love the mic you got. This looks natural, man. So I'm honored to be here. So thank you.
Thank you so much. So, dude, I took this public speaking class recently, and I wanted to ask you because you're someone who has been doing public speaking for some time, and you are
Yeah.
a killer. So, how'd you become so good at public speaking? Is it because you were a linguistic major? One of your studies in college was linguistics, and that's always fascinating me because I remember the first time you met my mom. You started reading the Quran to her in Arabic, and she was very impressed. So, but I also believe like some people have this like natural knack and this skill, this ability to just kind of learn languages uh, seamlessly. And I think you're one of those people.
Yeah, man. I don't know. I when I think of public speaking, like I never really thought of like my language learning and like public speaking kind of like together. The funny thing about me, and you didn't know me before college, obviously, but I was like the biggest introvert you could ever meet. Like I like all throughout high school, I had no friends. I had all my friends were like gamer nerds, and that was it. And we just played like World of Warcraft for like 18 hours a day. And so I was terrified of public speaking in high school. I think I failed all of my public speaking assignments. I just couldn't do it, man. It was just, I'd be so stressed out, so much anxiety. And it wasn't until like, I guess I got into college where I started to kind of come out of my shell. And it's one of those skills where you just need to practice, practice, and practice and use it, use as much as you can and get some of that experience. I remember in my first master's sort of class. It was called Principles of Health Administration. We had a really hard ass of a professor. Um, he was like a former like hospital CEO, and he taught sort of public speaking. And in this course, I remember the first ever presentation I had to do. He literally walked out of the classroom. He was like, "Jack, you're so bad at public speaking. I just couldn't sit there and suffer through this anymore." And just imagine you're presenting in front of class, and you see your professor just walk out, and he's supposed to be the one grading you. So you knew you like fucked up. It was like, hey, dude, I just melted. And that's like the worst thing for an introvert is like, oh my God, confirming that I am indeed terrible at this. Um, and it was like an eye-opening experience for me, and it really made me realize like you got to practice it. Like some people sure are maybe natural gifted orators. They're very bubbly and outspoken, and that's just not me. It just didn't work that way. And I still think I'm struggling as a public speaker. I still work on it. I still know I can be better. I say all the time, and I catch myself doing it. And you'll probably catch it a lot during this podcast session. And so I'm trying to catch myself, but it's just one of those natural language fillers. But to kind of finish answering your question, to tie it all together, I think language did help me in some way, um, in regards to being maybe a better speaker, just because it made me get out of my comfort zone. It made me go up to people and practice speaking with them, a different language, because that's really the only way you can do it. Yeah, you can sit in class and like learn, read from a book, right? Which is how they typically teach you in high school. Is like you sit there, you learn, oh, camisa or la mesa, but like that's not the way to learn it, man. And so the best way to learn the language is to go out there and just engage people and practice it and use it. And I think that skill, learning that in college, like undergrad, really sort of helped me feel a lot more comfortable in public speaking. And at the end of the day, it's confidence, right? That's really what it is. Like, how confident are you in public speaking? And so it took me a long time to build that confidence. But I owe that professor everything, because him walking out of that classroom made me realize like I got to kick it, I got to step it up a notch and really try harder. And the best thing about it was that in my last course in my master's program, I had him again, and I did my final presentation. And he said, Jack, this is one of the best presentations I've ever seen. And I can't believe how well you've done, coming from starting here in the very beginning, where like I just couldn't watch you present, to now I'd watch you present anytime I could get. So it was so great, and it was like a kind of a nice coming full circle moment for me, and definitely something I'll never forget in my sort of career and professional development. But it's something that I'm always trying to work on. So I appreciate you complimenting my public speaking skills. I still think I'm a terrible public speaker, um, but yeah, man, that's that.
It's interesting you say that because I feel like anyone who has had a professor be that brutal to them, like with such being so critical, like I feel like that could also destroy some people. But I like how you were like, fuck that. I'm going to take this as a challenge and really work on this skill. And you continue to build on that. And I've had a similar experience, but not with public speaking, but this was just regarding the work that I was doing at my job at one point at a different company where my boss pulled me in and he was like, "Hey, you need to get your shit together. This is just like you're not getting this." Um, and that was an eye-opening experience for me to be like, "Holy shit, like you're a professional, you got to really get it together." But it's funny, like well, not funny, but it's interesting how some people crumble under that stress where other people thrive on that
Yeah,
stress. And you also mentioned the ums and the ims. One of the things the instructor was telling us or teaching us is that when you're saying the ums and the ims, that's when your brain is thinking faster than you can speak. So when you catch yourself with the ums and ims, just slow down.
yeah. Yeah, that's me in a
So
nutshell, 100%. I've actually never heard someone say it so eloquently. So I appreciate you doing it that way because um, I just did it. I caught myself. I am someone with, you know me, buddy, like low key ADHD. Like my mind is always going like a mile a minute, and I talk too
yeah,
fast. And that was another thing that I've learned with public speaking. Is like you gotta slow it down some. And when I get really excited about something, I kind of go off, and then I like trip on my own words, and then the ums and the ims come out. So yeah, it's definitely something I'm working on. But one of the things to I think a great point I've learned is you learn most from your failures and your failures, and when you make mistakes, you learn more from that. Like people sure you learn things from successes, but I think for me, it was such a key moment for me realizing like, yeah, I messed up and I want to make sure this never happens again. And that sort of was my mindset. And especially being someone who was such an introvert, and low key self conscious about how he appears in front of people when it comes to that kind of stuff, that was soul crushing. And I was like, I don't ever want to feel like that again. And so that's why I've worked so hard to try and better my public speaking skills. And plus, like in the professional environment, like communication is key. Like literally, like no matter what field you're in, like you need to be a good communicator. 100%. And I think that's the other thing that helped me out so much was in addition to having that class, or that being in the master's program, I was also working full time in an executive office in a university, as you know, and having to present PowerPoints and presentations and reports to senior leadership. You really have to have your shit together because they will burn you
yeah.
like a crisp. Yeah, burn you to a crisp. So, yeah,
You also mentioned confidence, and that's another key pinpoint the instructor called out and was like, "Hey, it's also about confidence, and it's about." And he said something along the line, if you could live in your own world where public speaking just didn't matter, how would you speak? And it's like, be confident. You have confidence, just be yourself.
yeah.
And so that was another like interesting thing that stuck with me. So I'm definitely taking the class again, which so let's go to, you mentioned I didn't know you before college, which is true. I didn't. We met in college, and we had just had this like connection. It was interesting. Like we just fucking connected right away. And I don't know. You mentioned the ADD. I think I also have a little bit of ADD and like this
It's
obsession
just
to
so.
things where you just get attached to shit. This obsession. Um, and so you did wrestling in high school, right?
Oh my
Like,
God. Yeah, I
dude,
did.
which was which when you told me you did wrestling, I was perplexed because I was like, this is 120, 130
I was one
pound
eight. I was
man.
118. No, I was 118 weight class, man. Like,
And I remember when we were doing jiu-jitsu, you got me in this grapple and you tapped me, and I was like, this motherfucker. Um, how what weight class were you in high school?
yeah, I was around 118 weight class. Yeah, and it's funny, man. Like, think about it, like the biggest introvert ever doing wrestling. Granted, let me say that I did it my senior year. So like the first 3 years in high school, I was too busy playing video games. I wish, dude, esports was like as big back then as it is now because oh my God, then I would say I'm a sports player. But I never, it's funny. My really good friend in high school was like, Jack, like you got to get more involved. You got to be more engaged. You got to do things. You're just playing video games all the time, and like that's not really anything helping you. And then it was like, all right, what can I do? And he was captain of the wrestling team, and he was like, you're going to come and you're going to do this with me, and kind of had, it's kind of like you had no choice, but it's always good doing something with a buddy, right? Someone that can kind of help you, like make you feel more comfortable. And I owe a lot to my friend Pat. From high school, who really helped me also kind of come out of my shell. And Pat, man, what a gem of a person, right? Like, oh my
Shout
God,
out to
like
Pat. Yeah, they're
such a genuine
they're
guy.
very special people in this world, and he's one of those very special people.
Yeah.
Just a just a genuinely good person.
Yeah.
Okay, so he took you under your wing, and you said you were fighting at 118. I don't see. I never. We had a wrestling team in high school. I'm trying to think about this. I think we had a wrestling team in high school, but we weren't very good. It's about pinning your opponent, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's points based, right? So you get points for different techniques and, getting the advantage over your opponent and stuff like that. But if you get a pin, like it's an automatic win. Let me also preface this by saying, like, I was nowhere near like good at wrestling at all, like compared to like Pat and those, I don't. And also to be completely honest with you, I did a lot of the preseason wrestling. So before the actual matches, like the official match season began, I was in the gym like every day. That's what you do is like you eat, sleep, dream like weightlifting and working out as a team. And so typically after school every single day, you'd go for like a 3 mile run or something like that, and then go hit the gym and weight lift. A lot of it too was it low weights, high reps, so to build endurance because that's really what you're focusing on. Um, so you can like outlast your opponent. But actually, man, going back to the whole introvert thing, like I didn't make it the whole season. I couldn't. Um, I loved the weightlifting. I loved the camaraderie with the team. But know what? The thing that was the worst thing for me was the singlets, man. Wearing the singlets, the unitard things in front of everyone. I couldn't do it. I could not
Wait,
do it.
wait,
I
wait.
was
Hold on.
so
Tell me about this. Is this like a uniform you have to put on, and then like
yeah, yeah,
what?
yeah. You see what they wear, like the singlets. It's like or the
Yeah,
unitard. I
yeah.
think is the word.
It's
Yeah,
super
dude.
tight.
Like
It's super tight.
super
Yeah.
tight. Your junk's hanging out. Like it just feels like you're like everyone could see your bulge and like, dude, me like who was so self-conscious about my stick legs and like people used to call me Skeletor in high school, by the way, where they'd be like, or they'd call me Paper because they were like, Jack, if you turn sideways, we can't see you. Um, so dude, it was like that. I think that was like what turned me off so much. So I made it through the preseason, did all, the practice, the trainings. I learned a lot. Come my first match, I couldn't do it, dude. Couldn't do it. So that's why it's kind of like I tell people I do wrestling, but then I also feel like a poser, like I'm like fake when I say I did it because it's like, yeah, I did it for half the school year, but I couldn't
Yeah.
make it through this season because everything we did was as a team. No one was watching us. But then when you do the matches, it's the whole school's there. And I got such stage fright. I couldn't do it. I couldn't go out and wrestle in this because I was just too self-conscious and worried. And again, it's just a good example of me like pre-college of how scared I was for the whole public speaking, like being in front of people. I was terrified. Nowadays, I don't care. Like,
I
like
think it's a real fear for a lot of people.
yeah. Well, the other thing
So
too happened too
yeah.
was I got MRSA, like awful, dude, like methicillin resistant Staphylococcus aureus. It's like an antibiotic resistant bacterial infection that I got on my leg, and dude, it left like a 2 inch hole in my leg, like the size, and then like the diameter was the size of like a quarter, because a lot of those mats like are very have lots of bacteria. I'm sure as you're nodding, so
Yeah.
and you got to clean them, and we did. But I got it, man, and it was awful, like terrible
Is that the
experience.
same
I
thing
think that
as a
also
ringworm?
Oh God, I mean, ringworm is another type that of what do you call it? Thing like a lot of wrestlers get, but that's nowhere near concerning as MRSA. I mean, MRSA literally like necrotizes your skin and eats your skin away, and
Oh,
leaves a hole.
sakes.
And it's really concerning. I mean, people have lost limbs because of MRSA. People have died from MRSA. It's such a severe bacterium that's resistant to antibiotics. And like the interesting thing is like most people carry the type of bacteria like on their skin, but I guess the way I was explained and don't quote me on this, but some bacteria mutate over time and just become resistant to antibiotics, and that's kind of what happens. They become resistant to the common antibiotic, and it's really hard to treat. So I had it for over a month. It was wild. So a lot of wrestlers get that. It's scary stuff, and that was also another thing that was like, all right, like I think I'm done. Yeah.
So you had it for a month. What's the recovery process? Is like, do you just treat it with, do you just like, do you go to a hospital for it? Do you, what
Mine
kind
was so,
of,
I mean, mine was like really severe that when I went to my like school nurse, she was like, you got to go to the hospital. And because it was so inflamed and so red, like my whole ass cheek was like swollen and red. I couldn't sit. I couldn't sit down. I couldn't lay on my, I couldn't put a seatbelt on. Dude, my ass hurt so bad. It was like the worst pain. I couldn't wear jeans, dude. Yeah, man. Like it was wild. Um,
so
so
yeah, you said stage fright. I think that's a very real thing that a lot of people have. I would say I still have a lot of stage fright. That's why I took the public speaking class because I want to work on some of those soft skills, and then or it's definitely a skill to have for
yeah.
sure.
That was a good
Yeah.
transition, by the way. As soon as I said ass cheek, you switched back to public speaking. So I appreciate the catch. No. um, but yeah, it certainly is a skill, man. But it's like something again, like I said, everyone needs to work on and whatnot. So, but yeah, wrestling was great,
Do you
man.
miss
Though,
it? Oh,
experience. Do I
it's
miss it?
just
So it's funny you say that. So I don't miss wrestling exactly. I miss jujitsu. I think wrestling is what like opened my eyes to like martial arts because like being someone my size, I'm 5'8", like now I'm probably like 130, and back then I was probably
but
like 180.
you're a strong ass 5'8", 130. Like, and I think it's because of the wrestling and the weightlifting you did from a younger age. Like,
Yeah, it's technique. I think that's the most important thing is like technique. I mean, yeah, strength helps, but knowing the technique of how to pin someone, how to tackle someone, how to choke them out. Like, that you don't really learn the choking aspect in wrestling, but you learn how to tackle someone and pin someone. But that's where jujitsu comes into importance. And I think that's why it's such an important martial art for folks to learn, especially folks that are smaller, because it doesn't matter strength as much. I mean, most fights get onto the ground anyway, and that's what jujitsu is. Jujitsu is about taking someone to the ground and then tapping them out to stop the fight like in the first place. Like you don't want it to progress. You get them on the ground, and then there's the headlocks, chokes, arm bars, things like that to try and stop the person from killing you or beating your ass. So we did that in college. Remember that was. I still can't
I know,
believe, by the
yeah,
way, one of your first dates was taking a girl to jujitsu. By the way, I had to put that out there. That was like the
yeah. That's dude.
funniest thing ever, man.
And look what it turned out. It turned out to be marriage. So, for
100%.
all the people listening, hey, that's what you got to do. You got to take your first date, just kind of get the awkward stuff out the way. Just go like put it all out there, hang it all out there, and you know, um, just go for it. And it's funny, we laugh about that even until now. Like I can't believe she said, "Sure, I'll come."
Yeah.
And I remember we were in the class and she was laughing. Remember her and because she took her friend with her, and they were like, "What the fuck is this?"
Yeah.
They're like, "Hey," like playing with their fucking nails. So I take this class on the weekend every day. I take a I go to this gym called CKO kickboxing gym. My buddy hooked me up, and so I started going there. Dude, it is such a great feeling. Waking up in the morning, starting off the day right, getting your workout in. Like you just feel loose, you feel relaxed, you feel energized.
Oh.
And I gotta say, you feel a little horny too.
Oh, dude, this guy. Yep.
Like the testosterone is just like it's just like flowing through your body. So
Yeah.
um so I started doing that, and I just came back from my class not too long ago. I'm trying to incorporate it a little more than like once a week though, because I do really enjoy it. And we had this instructor. So I've been trying a few instructors to see which one I really like. And this is the I took the class with the same instructor I did last time. She's this pregnant lady. She's about 6 months in, and bro, she was kicking our ass. Just like just at it. Um and I admire that. I appreciate that. I was joking with her. I was like, "Hey, your baby is going to turn out to be a fucking superhero. Like you're there's a superhero in your belly right now.
Baby's gonna come out kicking. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
And
that's great of like the habit and the routine building, waking up in the morning and doing that kind of stuff. Because you feel energized and motivated for the rest of the day to get other shit done, right?
yeah,
Um, and it's like, what was it? Like one of the generals in the military or something was saying like one of the best habits you could ever do every morning is wake up and do your bed because the first accomplishment of the day. Then it kind of sets you on like a sort of domino effect of what other things can I accomplish.
yeah.
Um, so I love that idea. Yeah, definitely.
I tried that too, by the way. I tried the whole like waking up in the morning, making your bed, and it didn't last very long.
Dude,
It
my
didn't last
girlfriend,
very
yeah,
long.
Rosa, yeah, Rosa yells at me all the damn time about it, man. Of like, why didn't you make the bed? And I'm like, my response is, well, no one else is going to see the bed. It's just you and I. Like, and then we're going to get back in it
Right,
tonight and mess it up
right,
again. What's the big deal? So no, I'm on the same page as you. I try. Usually I'll half-ass it, and that's it. But I actually like.
yeah.
It's kind of funny, and this is like the lazy man way of doing it. I don't like sleeping like under my comforters or anything. I like to leave them clean, and I just get like a throw over blanket and use that because then every morning it's easier to put away. I just fold it up or throw it in my closet, and I'm good. My like stepmom thinks I'm like
Wait, hold
psychotic.
on, hold on. What do you do? You don't sleep on the comforter? Like, do you just flop it over to her side, or do you like sleep over it
I sleep on top of
on
it, so
top
I
of
don't
on
use the
top of it? Sorry.
actual blankets on the bed. Like I have my own like throw over blanket I bring, and I sleep on that, so it's easier every morning when I get up. I don't have to make the whole damn bed. I just fold
Yeah,
my throw over blanket.
that is a little psychotic.
Hey, it saves me
No,
time in the morning, and then I don't have to get yelled at about making the bed. I can just fold in my blanket or throw it in the closet, and then I'm out. And I'm the dude. I'm the worst.
aren't
I'm
you
the kind of.
freezing at night?
I mean, nah, dude. It's a nice thick throw over. Like it's perfect. Yeah, it's good. Yeah, because I'm the kind of person, dude, that like it's like I gotta work at 9 in the morning, like remote, and get my computer up. I wake up at like 8:59, and I'm like, oh shit, like so I'm grabbing my blanket, I'm throwing it in my closet, and then I'm like jumping in front of my laptop, opening my laptop. Yeah,
Dude, how do you feel about working from home? Because I gotta tell you, I'm not a big fan because but I want to hear your thoughts first on it.
I love it, dude. It's a bit of both. I love certain aspects of it. I mean, again, like I just said, being able to like sleep until like 8:59 in the morning and then 9 a.m. just throw it up, get a drink and hop right on the laptop. So I love that kind of stuff. But I feel more productive in the office. I don't know because I have my own office space. I got my 3 laptops. I got all of my like all the supplies and things I need. And then I mean the most important part is then I got my team around me, which is so much easier to communicate and powwow with them and come across the street, come across the hallway, excuse me, and say, hey, like team member, like what's going on? Like, just get my email, just get an update. Did we get that meeting scheduled yet? It's just so much easier to do it that way quickly, instead of like doing it on Teams or something. I don't know. But I love it. I love being in the office. I just feel like the creative juices flow more. And I like in-person meetings. I find in-person meetings and in-person connections so much more meaningful because a lot of times what happens too is like, you'll walk and bump into someone in the hallway and then like a random idea comes up, right? And you're just like, oh hey, by the way, and that starts like a really cool like chain reaction of like another project idea or another thing we could do. Um, and so you don't get that on Zoom, right? You don't get that, like in the virtual world. And that's why I love that in-person aspect of that because can't tell you how many times like my coworkers and I'm like, hey, come here real quick. And they come in and we're just like chit-chatting and then this whole like idea comes up about another thing that we want to do as a team. And yeah, so we've got a lot of like innovative stuff that came about that would have only happened through in-person stuff and not remote. So I love it.
Yeah, so I guess I'm with you in the sense that I do enjoy the in-person aspect. There's this energy behind like just being in person, being able to see your team. And for me, I commute to the city, so the energy in the city is just different. The energy in
Yeah.
the office is just different. It's vibrant, very colorful, and so and I'm spoiled. I got a Starbucks right next to my office. So
Ooh.
right before I go in, I get my coffee, start the day off right. And let me tell you something. I love spending $7 on coffee every fucking day. Um, so yeah, no, I agree. And then working from home, I do think there is a balance. There needs to be a balance. And to your
Yeah.
point, I'll wake up at, you wake up at 8:59. I'll wake up at fucking 9 o'clock on the dot and be like, "Oop." Uh, and we have this connect in the morning at like 9:30, and at that time I'm like pretty much kind of just getting my stuff together. Um, yeah, but it's interesting. Like, if what if I think about like how would we feel like because you're starting a company, and this could be the perfect like segue into that. Now, since you've got this company, I want you to you know tell us about it a little bit because I think this is really fucking cool. Like the shit you're working on is awesome. So if you were a boss, like, you most likely be like, no, I'm the owner of a company. You'd be like, I want to see my team in person. But maybe tell us a little bit about the company you're building, because I think this is like solving for real world problems. And it just makes me so happy that I get to have a buddy that is uh, a friend that really just is solving real world problems.
Yeah, man. No, yeah, I appreciate that. So I don't know. I guess I don't know if I'm a humble guy. I always feel weird talking about like business adventures until like they're actually like making like like actually like bringing in lots of money. But yeah, I've always seen myself as an innovator, entrepreneur. Like I've always had that mindset. I mean, you too, man. Obviously, like I think that's why you and I think get along so well is because we're very like-minded in that sense, and we've had many ideas of business startups, and it took me forever. Yeah, dude, I'm sure we could have a whole podcast on just
Yeah,
failed business ideas that we had that just
yeah.
didn't work out. But that's the thing, man. I think that's the thing about business and entrepreneurship is it's trial and error. Like I said from the beginning, learning from your mistakes. Like, you're not going to have a unicorn company right away, right? That's making a crap ton of money. It takes some, finding your way and you're going to take a lot of punches, but you just got to be strong and stick it through. So, with that said, it took me a long time to figure out what I wanted to do in regards to the business sense. Initially, I was thinking consulting, just because I'm a project manager, administrator in healthcare, and figured that I could use my knowledge and skills to solve problems for other people. But like consulting's hard to get into, and it's also a very saturated space. And I thought, well, what else? What else do I love to do? And so I kind of did like an internal inventory of what am I passionate about, what am I good at, and what do people need? Where is there a need that's not being filled? I think that's kind of the trifecta. And what I realized is that in my day job, I'm working in a university. I have so many students that are looking for internship placements, looking for mentorship, just looking for someone to talk to and connect with. And there's lots of things out there. There's Handshake, there's Indeed for Jobs, and I think Indeed has internships too. There's LinkedIn, but none of it is tailored really well, I think, for like the healthcare setting and giving people really awesome healthcare specific internships and mentorship connections. And so I thought a lot about it. I'd looked at some of those platforms I mentioned, and I kind of thought, hey, like, why don't I give it a shot to see what I can do myself? Because again, there is such a large need in my immediate sort of environment in the university setting of students coming to me looking for experiences. So we decided to develop a platform that right now, in all honesty, it's really just becoming a database, like a database of opportunities for folks where if a student needs to just connect with a healthcare professional for advice or guidance or insight, or maybe more structured mentorship that's longitudinal, we can find those people for them, and then warm introduction them via our platform. Um, and it's going well, and the idea is great, and we did a little small pilot. I'm the kind of guy that's all about a minimal viable product. I don't want to spend all my money and all my time on developing something great that no one's going to use. I'd rather develop something, spend less time, just get the core features, the core essentials of the product, right? Test it out with people, get their feedback, see if it's worthwhile, and then do some of that refinement. That's like lean business model thinking, where it's like, let's start with something small, let's test it, let's get feedback from people as soon as we can, so that we can kind of, because at the end of the day, like you want customer feedback. That's the most important thing. It's like you and I could sit here all day talking about what we think makes a good product, but it doesn't matter if the customers don't think that or the clients don't think that, right? And so bring them into the equation as soon as you can. And so that's sort of my whole mindset of let me get something with the features that I want and get it out there. So we developed two platforms, one for internship placements, one for mentorship placements, specifically focused on the healthcare administration, healthcare space. So it's more niche, it's very tailored, and it's intentional. I don't want people on this platform like LinkedIn. you can make so many connections with folks. Like, how many times do you go through LinkedIn and like you just randomly connect with people, or random people add you and you're just like, why are they adding me? Like, what's like, why, like, what's going on? And then I go through my LinkedIn feed and I see people posting about things I'm not even interested in. How did it even happen? And then not all of these people like are willing to be mentors or willing to be like internship supervisors and host internships, right? Like none of that is anywhere said in LinkedIn. So we're kind of just going for that of finding those people that are willing to do it and then plug them into our platform.
LinkedIn has this problem where people assume or think the more LinkedIn connections you have, the better opportunities you have of getting a job. And that's
doesn't
just not true. That's not true.
doesn't work at all.
Um, so what would you say is the hardest challenge of running a business?
Hardest challenge of running the business. I gotta say, I mean, just because I'm new to it, is like, this isn't the number one answer, but just initial thought is the whole like setting up a company and the taxes and all that kind of fun stuff and making sure you're doing things right so that Big Brother gets their money is is definitely a thing that stresses me out so much of like, hey, like, am I doing this right? Like, I don't want to get in trouble, and so that has been like a thing where it's like trial by fire, where it's like we're learning kind of new things every day of, oh yeah, you got to submit, you got to create the LLC and you got to do all that kind of stuff, and so that's been tough, but let me tell you the hardest challenge I think so far that I faced is uh, building a team that shares the same mindset and values that I have. That's extremely passionate about this and doing it in a way too, where like you're also protecting like intellectual property. I just started, and I already had someone who was trying to basically be like, "Oh, we deserve to be a founder," like, and it was like, what? Like I've been working on this since, like almost a year now, and like someone else is like, "Oh, I like this idea," like. I deserve to be on that. That's just the tough part. It's just managing. And what I've learned is it's about managing expectations. I had a person that was helping me out with this tremendously and did a great job, and but all they were doing was trying to help with finding connections, and they weren't doing anything regarding any of the strategic leadership or product development or anything like that in my mind warrants a leadership position in the company. And so it was a really tough conversation to have. It was a needed conversation to have, and I learned like right up front that like you got to set clear expectations and like get things in writing like as soon as possible, like especially if you're bringing team members on, like clarify expectations, clarify compensation, clarify what they're going to be doing specifically and what their role is. Like, don't leave it loosey goosey, because that's where you get yourself in trouble. And that's kind of what happened to me initially. Was someone was like, "Oh, I came in to help you did all this," which by the way I didn't. I said, "Come and help me bring some people into the platform," and this person was a go getter and found a whole bunch of people, and I was like, "Oh my god, this is amazing." And then that's sort of where she was like, "All right, yeah, like I deserve this amount of money and this amount of equity in the company," and I'm like, we didn't talk about that. So
Yeah, that's a
yeah,
that's a terrible approach to go ask for money. I think she could have done a better job of like saying, "Hey, this is what I'm willing to do if I'm able to hit these targets.
yeah,
Can we talk about next steps?" And so it's interesting. There's even strategic planning that goes
oh,
behind
100%.
asking for more money. I've learned that in my professional career. Like, you never want to go to your boss and say, "Give me more money. I deserve more money." They're gonna look at you like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" Go in there, tell them why. Like, what is it that you want to accomplish? How are you going to accomplish it? And put a timeline on it, and then obviously get
Yeah.
it in writing. And then when you hit those accomplishments, it's like, okay, let's have that conversation.
That's the problem with
Yeah.
startups. I mean, there's no guarantee of anything. Like it could be a good idea. We could think this is the best idea since sliced bread, but like unless we're like we have clients, we're making money. There's really um, there's no guarantee. And so like
Yeah,
I
it
made
could blow up, is what you're saying.
yeah, you make that clear up front and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, I told the person, hey, like, we're going to kind of be volunteering, and spending a lot of time with no guarantee of return here. But it's okay because like, I'm so passionate for this. Like, and I even told like, I don't care if I get paid. Like, I want to make sure my team gets paid. I don't care if I get paid. If
Mhm.
I can give people a good experience that really helps them and makes a difference and like helps them sort of like ascend to the next level in their career. Like that's what I care about. That's what I'm happy about is giving people the good experience, and making sure that we're helping them. Because again, right now it's so hard, like, to find those connections, to meet with people, to get your foot in the door. That's one of the biggest questions I get from people is like, where do you start? And that, we could talk about that soon, but um, yeah, it's a tough one, man. It's a tough
You
one, and
you
go ahead.
yeah, you said passion, and that is so true. You have to be passionate about what you're doing. It makes me think of the company I had started, and you had initially helped me kind of get it going, the Victorian Maid Company, and
Shaking my
and
head.
I remember like getting the website. I remember like beating other competitors in terms of like having a web page where you could go and you could reach out, you could do some research, look at the services that were being provided. So I knew I was already ahead of competitors in that way in terms of the digital aspect, but I realized, and then eventually it blew up pretty quick because I was like, you know what, it's just not working out. And one of the reasons I had to like do some soul searching and ask myself like, why did it fail and fail so quick? And I realized it's because I wasn't passionate about it. There was this passion I was lacking, or I just wanted to start a business and make money. And and that's just the wrong approach. Like you have to be passionate about it. Yeah, you may even be solving for real world problems, but if you're not passionate about it, you're just kind of in this cycle of like
Yeah.
you're gonna eventually possibly burn out or not just be enthusiastic about the business. And of course, it works for some people where they could do that and then eventually sell the company to someone.
Yeah, I think, like the passion is like the fuel that keeps you going, is sort of how I see it, right? And like it takes so much time to start up your own company that like it's like you kind of need to be passionate for it because you're putting so much time and effort into it. And if you're not, you're probably going to crash and burn. And I mean, so many people have, their sole purpose for a business idea is to make money. It totally makes sense, right? But like if you have that in mind, I don't think it's going to work out. And I kind of feel like that's kind of what that person was thinking about. He, she, they were more focused on, how can I make money out of this rather than how can I serve the students and help them. And that was kind of that in itself was, I think, that the biggest turnoff for me is that this is someone that is putting money over students, and that's not the kind of people we want in the company. Um, so it was a learning moment for me, uh, but yeah, dude, I remember that. I remember like thinking with you about Victorian Maid, and also myself being like, damn, like I'm not really passionate about cleaning at all or like maid service at all. And I feel like that's probably why you kind of saw my enthusiasm over time slowly decrease, because I'm just like, it's just not, this is not what maybe you might have found that there was a gap, and, but it's also, there's definitely lots of competition, and it would have taken so much time to pull it off, and didn't think the juice was worth the squeeze, to be honest, in the sense that I think we're going to be bored. I think both of it was that we're just so excited to be business owners, man, and like to jump into that world. But I will say, it was a great experience because I feel like you learned so much, right? Like you had to
Yeah,
learn
dude,
so much
I
startup.
learned how to build I learned how to, get the LLC going. I learned how to get a website developed. I remember developing the website all by myself. I remember, marketing. I remember setting up Google campaigns, and I remember interviewing people and hiring, trying to hire them. So yeah, it was a good experience. And like and you touched on this earlier. You said you learn a lot from your failures, and you certainly do. So I hope this encourages anybody who may be listening out there who's passionate about starting a business and not doesn't really know where to start or how to do it. Just get it going. And something I'm passionate about is now this media uh, journey that I'm on with SGRA Media, Sagittarius Media, and doing this YouTube thing, which I'm having a lot of fun doing, honestly. Um,
Amir, could you tell me more about
so.
what that Sagittarius media is? Because that's my first time hearing that word come out of your mouth, and I want to make sure I'm
Oh,
understanding what,
I mean, Sagittarius Media is just the name of the company that's
Okay,
behind like my YouTube channel.
awesome.
So, and for me, it's not the zodiac sign Sagittarius. with bow and arrow. It's Sagittarius A is a black hole that's in the center of our galaxy. And it's the biggest black hole in the center of our galaxy. And I'm kind of like a nerd about space. Not a nerd, but I really enjoy talking about space and astrophysics because it's just a fascinating field for me. And I want to learn more about it. So it's this black hole that's in the center of our galaxy that pretty much if you're ever in caught in the event horizon, like you're not coming back, you're pretty much
Yeah.
fucked. So yeah,
Yeah, I'm
yeah.
sitting here thinking, I'm like, damn, I don't remember Amir ever being a zodiac sign guy. Like, do I not know this guy? Like, after all this time, like,
No, yeah, no.
so that
I'm
makes
not I'm
total
not a
sense.
zodiac. I'm not a zodiac. Like some people say like, you zodiac signs truly do resemble a person's personalities in terms of the definitions that
Yeah,
they are. But that could be said about anyone, I think. So I don't really
yeah.
believe that.
But respect to people out there that are hardcore zodiac sign folks. I respect it. It's one of those
Yeah.
things. Just like it's like one of those things with that and like supernatural, where it's like for me, it's kind of like fuck around and find out, and so I prefer not to fuck around, with it because like you never know, right? Like karma or whatever, right, could come and get you. So, but um, but it's funny you start talking about planets and stuff because I literally in my mind was like, I know that topic's gonna come up at some point
Uh,
during this conversation because you and I are also I think you and I are pretty big nerds about that kind of stuff and just seeing Three Body Problem not long ago and remember
yeah,
you and I were
yeah.
talking about that which is such a kick-ass series and I'm not surprised that you named the media company after that too but
Yeah, space is just interesting. It makes me think of other life form naturally. I think anybody who thinks of space and that's so I mean eventually I think it does come to their mind like, what is there other life forms out there? And it would be foolish for us to dismiss that argument thinking that there aren't any other life forms out there just because the universe is so massive. And for me, what's even more fascinating is that we have this telescope, the James Webb telescope that's like orbiting the sun and which is even in itself amazing that we put a 25-foot telescope that we folded up and then shot up into space and then it unfolded and now it's able to see like billions of light years ahead or back, seeing all these nebulas being formed and all these planets and all these stars and galaxies merging together. It's fascinating shit, and but I'm nowhere near smart enough to talk about it. So I eventually do want to have someone who is into astrophysics and studying space eventually come on the podcast and talk about it. And I would just I would be a kid in the candy shop just listening honestly to them all day.
yeah it'd be awesome I mean yeah I have nowhere near any expertise from this besides just reading about like Wikipedia stuff about planets and the shows but um we should I guess we should save that to the experts to talk about when you have
For
another
sure,
podcast. Amir, I want to
for
ask you a quick
sure.
question about like business venture stuff real quick. What was your first like ever business venture idea that you had? If you can think back to like the early days besides, working
I
at a shop.
I remember like this is going to be lame, but I remember and this is, I'm sure most kids a lemonade stand.
Yeah.
I had a cousin over staying with us for a long weekend, and we would sell lemonades. And I remember there was construction workers right across the street or next to us, and they came and bought lemonade. And I remember my dad saying, at the end of the day, we had a bunch of money, like 30, 40 bucks, whatever it was. Maybe it was more, but I remember my dad saying, and we were going to split the money between me and my cousin, and he goes, "No, you got to give that money to your cousin." I was like, "What the fuck? We did this. This was a joint effort." So, but the mindset of business to me, I picked up from an early age from my father because he was into business. I remember one of the first books he gave me about business was like Rich Dad Poor Dad. He gave me stuff about he gave me a book on Donald Trump actually, The Art of the Deal.
Mm.
And I remember reading that book and how Donald would go to his father, he would go with his father, collect rent from these buildings. And so I remember my dad taking me with him because he would manage some buildings and he would say, let's go, like go knock on that person's door, collect the rent, write them a receipt, and then
Yeah.
hand it to them, and then make sure you count the money. So, but then my business ventures you asked. So, the lemonade stand was one of them. I'm trying to think of another one. I think like a legit one where I got I think pretty far was the Victorian maid in terms of I remember just because I remember spending money on the business to grow it and I remember even clients reaching out to ask for prices and I remember how excited I was that first time when a client reaches out and emails you and says, "Hey, I'm interested in your services. Tell me more about it."
Yeah.
So I would say like my first real business was a Victorian maid. So yeah, and now it's this thing where I'm just having a lot of I'm passionate about it, having a lot of fun. And I would love to do this in person though. I think just again, like the energy, the connections are much more meaningful in person, but unfortunately CapEx is capped at the moment. Like there's no capital expenditure happening at this current
Yeah.
moment.
I know we're like
Now,
the biggest goofballs in person together, so I imagine this in person would be like 10x right now. We'd have to be on our best behavior.
yeah, yeah.
It's all right. My first
So
company idea I ever had was with remember your former roommate Jason, good old Jason. We wanted to sell
yeah,
bubble tea out of the dorm. We literally wanted to buy like an electric stove and like boba and sell it from the dorm. So it's okay. I don't think any lemonade stand sounds cool. I mean, hey, whatever people are interested in doing. So, but sorry, what were
yeah.
you gonna say?
So where did you guys go with that? How far did it go? Did it just kind of
It crashed and burned. Yeah, nothing. It never happened. It was like one of those cool ideas where like I remember buying bubble tea and all that kind of stuff, and then just never happened. And then people are like, who the hell is gonna come to your dorm and legit buy bubble tea from you guys?" And you're like, ah, yeah, that's a good point. And I think it just was one of those ideas that it didn't work out. But hey, it was like I think that's what kind of set me on the path of like, well, what are other ideas I could do? And yeah, it started off so simple, and then it kind of just over time progressed into other things. But again, the passion is the key, and I think that's what
These college girls, I feel like you guys could would have definitely made some money off of it, if I'm being honest. There weren't a lot of bubble tea places on campus. I remember there was maybe one or two, but I
yeah.
think you guys could have had a monopoly, if I'm being honest. If you if you carried on with the bubble tea idea. I mean, there's college girls who were showing off their tits on campus on like OnlyFans and shit like that, but and
Yeah,
they're making bank, so.
yeah, dude, Jesus, yeah. Um,
So the business, so what about you? Like, have you realized like how are you managing capital expenditure for your company? And by the way, do you have a name yet? And or do you want to disclose that name? Totally up to
Now
you.
we don't have a name right now. We were piloting something initially, and then one of our really awesome team members um, got offered another job and left. And out of respect to him, because he was the one that came up with the idea of the name, we kind of gave it back to him. So it was fine. We didn't really move far along anyway. Again, like I'm not at this point right now. I'm not too worried about that. I'm more worried about developing an awesome product that works for folks and I'm enjoying it. I'm having fun with it. I have a really awesome tech developer named Nick that's been really doing all the development for this, and he's so awesome. He does such a good job, and very like minded. And we're having a blast with it and trying to just see if we get something that's of value to our. We're actually trying to pilot it within our university with one of our schools or programs that I graduated from. Um, so we're hoping that we can use that as like our test environment and I even told the program that I was like, I'm not trying to make money off of you guys. Like I'm an alumni of your program, alum of your program, right? Like, as long as we can sort of, test the product and help your students, I think that's a win. I think the idea of sort of expanding this and making it something that hopefully will be profitable would be if we demonstrate it successful within this environment for like a pilot. We bring it to other academic institutions and other places to help students outside of Jersey and other universities and across the United States. I think that's where the rubber hits the road and where I think we'll make some money. And by then, obviously, I'd want to have like a name and a brand. But right now, we're just focused on the product. I think that's the most important thing.
You
But
know, healthcare is such a, sorry, you want to say
well, I just
something?
want to say, I feel like I didn't answer your question. I mean, right now, as like for like any startup, it's all self-funded by me. I'm sort of putting my own money and time into it, right? And so that's sort of how it's rolling right now. And I don't want to do any like investors at this point or anything like that because, and I want to. There's no need to. I want to put as much time and effort into this as I can first on my own,
Yeah.
and at least develop something before I even worry about that, and also having to worry about like losing equity and all that kind of stuff. So, but yeah, just
Yeah.
answer.
Healthcare is such a controversial topic, I think. Like I think about when I think about healthcare, I think about the recent events that happened not too long ago with this guy, Mangione, legit just
Yeah.
shooting this guy, the CEO of United Healthcare, in the head in like right early in the morning. And now he's this guy's being praised. So it makes me think like how controversial healthcare is and how, and particularly in America. And think about like the public reaction. Like there, to me, it was kind of shocking that people were like, "Oh yeah, like it's a good thing that they shot this motherfucker." And I was like, "How is that a good thing?" I understand like healthcare is fucked up in America and it's got a lot of problems, but we shouldn't be glorifying this man who shot a CEO in the morning and now he's being praised like a messiah. I don't know, where do you stand on that? Or just your
I mean, it's such a difficult topic to just dive into and talk about. I mean, I think what this just shows, like big picture, is just people are tired of of the current healthcare structure and system and how expensive everything is. I mean, you know, Americans pay more
Yeah.
for healthcare than any other country, and then there are other countries that have better quality than we do and better outcomes, right? And so I think people are just tired of that whole system, but. Um, yeah, I think that's really the main thing I'd say about it. I mean, I agree though, like, no one deserves to go out how that guy went out. Um,
Yeah.
at least, but um, it was terrible to see and definitely a dark day for healthcare. But yeah, that's it, man. How it's a slippery slope talking about healthcare. I think the problem too is like it's also like healthcare is so massive, like just the idea of, or just the industry of healthcare, that like for me, like my main area of focus is on, health education. So like educating community members about access like resources for getting healthcare, educating community members about chronic disease, cancer screening, so blood pressure, diabetes, hypertension, cancer, like what kind of screenings you should be getting, all that kind of stuff. That's sort of my area of interest and focus. When we start talking about health administration broadly, and when you start talking about payers, insurances and insurance companies, that's where you start to get into a very convoluted territory and super super confusing. I mean, I got a master's in health administration, and I still struggle at times to explain, the different types of health insurance and sort of how it works.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that's the other problem too with people is it's understanding how to navigate the healthcare system, and then also like transparency, like price transparency. So understanding how much you should be paying and why you're paying what you are paying. So, you know, um, we could talk a lot about this.
Do you see a path to universal healthcare?
Not with this current administration. Um, it's I don't what would be really cool if not like universal healthcare is a type of model where at least everyone has access to primary care, which is like your checkups, right? Getting that to me, having that covered, I think is extremely important. Like probably one of the most important things you do. And so like that at least would be a phenomenal step in the right direction. I'm sure there are programs out there that sort of do some of that, but I don't know. I find it really hard. I just feel like how America currently is. Um, I don't know. And the problem too is like someone has to pay for it. Like if you're getting like free healthcare to everyone, who's paying for it? And like and it's like the taxpayers are going to pay for it. And then what does that mean for you, the average American? Like your taxes are going to go way up. You're going to be paying a lot more. So it's like you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. It's like it'd be phenomenal if that happens, but um, I can't see it happen. But then again, there are other countries that do have a sort of model like that. You look, I think Great Britain and NHS. Don't quote me if I'm wrong. Again, I'm not an expert on this high level stuff,
Yeah.
um, but it'd be cool. It'd be great to aspire to something like that. At least step in the right direction. But I find that unlikely.
With this current, you said with this current administration, do you see it happening just ever in
Yeah,
America?
years down the line, maybe. Yeah, possibly. You never know, right?
Yeah.
Could, but I just don't have enough information to
Yeah,
to give
it's
a
crazy
good
to me.
answer.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's sad to think about people who don't have access to very basic healthcare in America. And we're talking about the richest country in the world, and yet we lack basic healthcare. But it's also kind of, you know, funny that I have great healthcare, but I have not gone and done a physical in like years. I'm talking about like over 5 years. Um, but I've also noticed like when I had like shitty healthcare versus the healthcare I have now, which I'm really thankful for, they treat me differently when I go and give them my card. And it's almost like a chain. I almost feel or sense a change in their tone of like how they treat me. It's like, oh yeah, like don't worry, we'll handle the next appointment for you. We'll reschedule it. And I'm like, oh, okay, I like this. I like this.
Yeah.
And I'll give you an example because I had some back pain a month ago, like really bad fucking back pain and 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 it was weird. Like I was sitting down, we're watching a movie. I'm sitting down, I had my legs up on the ottoman, but I'm in this weird awkward position, and I suddenly get up and I feel this pinch in my back, and it just runs from my back all the way down to my legs. And I was like, oh fuck, because I felt it before. It's happened to me before, and it's particularly I've noticed like when I sit in this prolonged position for a long time. And so I went to go to the chiropractor, and I remember giving them my insurance, and they were just like, yeah, like it did like therapy on my back and some shock therapy. They put a heating pack, but like the care was very different from how I remember it before, where it wasn't as like catered, and I feel like it was maybe something to do with like with my insurance, something to do with like how good my insurance was. So
Yeah, no, you
yeah,
make up a good point though. I mean, a lot of it really it's hate to, put it this way, but like uh people have different types of insurances, so that the practices or doctors' offices get a, if you have better insurance, they get paid better. They have better contracts, which means they get, more money after serving someone like you in comparison to someone else that could have worse insurance. And um that's a lot of things sometimes you hear from like public insurers like Medicaid, Medicare, or the VA, or like, I've read about it that, some of their institutions or hospitals or practices, the quality of care isn't just as good, because they don't get as much money. And then I think that also translates to then, that how well you can pay your staff and your faculty or your physicians and all that kind of stuff, because I think that also has an impact on, the quality of employees you have too, right? So it's all related, it's all connected.
yeah.
I think you bring up a valid point. um One of the things I'm trying to steer away from too, by the way, is like, like I love talking about healthcare, but because there's so many multifaceted, healthcare is very multifaceted. Like so many people I imagine in podcasts pretend they're experts in everything, and they say things that maybe aren't factually true. So I'm also trying to sort of break that kind of thing of happening with your podcast though, because
Hmm.
I don't want to be like Donald Trump and say something, that's perhaps not factually true, but then people are like, oh, this guy must be right, he must know what he's talking about, so. And I think that's one thing, by the way, like, is I wish we had, I think as a nation, as a people, like I think we need to look more at the facts, and and say things and have clear facts or data that sort of backs up what you say. Um, just I think there's a lot of folks in power, like in healthcare system and other and other facets of government and nonprofits and whatever. But people that have power have a lot of pull and perhaps say things that aren't factually true and they
Mhm.
can't back it up. And people, the populations, the people that look up to these folks believe what they say. And that is, I think that's a big problem, a very scary problem. Um, and something needs to be done about that.
Yeah,
People
we're
need to
gonna
be held
start
accountable for what.
we're gonna start fact checking our guest
Yeah,
on the
fact check me.
podcast.
Yeah, exactly. Let's start with us. Let's start with us and like fact check everything. I just think people need to be held accountable for what they say. And
Yeah,
if they say things that aren't factually true, it has a big impact. As
especially
Trump was sorry, go ahead.
especially like powerful elites, right? Like you mentioned, where you're in a position of power and you're saying shit that just isn't true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Like,
think a lot of
and
that.
I'm not
I think
trying to talk
but I
politics.
think that yeah, I think that that happens a lot though, for sure. In America. Well, I mean, I think everywhere. Like
Yeah.
th their agendas. They have agendas. They're not perfect. They say shit uh all the time. That not all the time, but they say shit that obviously could impact people, and that just isn't true for sure.
Yeah.
Like I think about Biden when he was like, "I'm not going to pardon my son," and he doubled down on it, tripled down on it, and then and then and
I,
then he
I
was
just think
found
about like
guilty.
again, not being political here at all in whatever sense, and I'm not picking one side or the other side, but like Trump's
You
like
can
a
be
funny
political.
example with Trump was like when he was what was he talking about people eating cats or something, and he was like, where the hell
Yeah,
did that come from? And
yeah,
then people were Google searching, do they actually eat cats there? And I'm like, what? Like,
yeah.
it's not just what I mean. I'm not just
Yeah.
Trump just gives good examples of that kind of stuff. I'm not picking
I,
favorites here, but
I think he could be a massive troll at times where he's just
no, 100%.
being like he says shit off the cuff, which is I think what a lot of people love about him, where he's it's unfiltered. He just says what he's thinking.
He just doesn't give a
And
fuck. Yeah.
and sometimes like and I think he knows that when the media runs with it, he just like goes even hard. He'll double down on it, or he won't even double down on it. Like they'll just run with it, and it'll just make it more funny.
Yeah. I don't know. Crazy times though, man. I feel like there's always some new headline or going on like almost every day now of something crazy happening. So
Yeah,
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 wild ride.
yeah.
But
The world definitely seems to be moving very fast, I think. Like I was listening to this conversation with Zelensky they had yesterday, and how they were just shitting on this guy
I
in
know.
in the public square, like just straight up embarrassing and sunning this man. Like, yeah, yeah. But we don't have to get too weeds in the politics. I know that's um yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well,
We
let's
don't
why
need.
don't I mean I don't know if you have other questions, but I was kind of thinking of like a trip down memory lane. Back to the, let's think of, going back to like the college days of you and I to kind of lighten the mood. But I was kind of thinking like you talked about not knowing me before college, right? And so like
Yeah,
my first impression of you, by the way, I think we've talked about this many times, was we were moving into our dorm, and Jason, who was your roommate, and me being right next door to you, all we see is like this guy, like with just like his blankets and boxing gloves, like put on the wall. We're just like, who the fuck, like, what guy is this gonna be, you know? And then you show up, I think, what later that night, and I don't know, it was just a funny experience. I just remember seeing that and Jason being like, man, this guy's gonna kick our ass or something like that. And then we met, we hung out, and like you were the chillest dude we've ever met. And I think things kind of kicked off after that. I don't know, you felt like an instant, like you and I just were just on the same wavelength the first time we ever met. And it was just ever since
yeah.
then we just hung out. And although we may have had different interests, like you're a big basketball guy, I fucking hate basketball. I'm terrible at it.
You're
But
actually really good at basketball. I don't know if you've ever noticed that. Like I the way you play basketball, it's the way I think basketball should be played, where you play with a lot of intensity, especially on defense. Like you really turn it up on defense, and like you'll foul, but and hack, but that's the fun. Like I find that fun because I go like that's like there because I grew up kind of watching old school basketball, and like there was a lot of hand checking, and so when you played like that, that was a lot of fun. Um,
I think that was the last time I ever played. I
yeah,
haven't played
yeah,
basketball in so long, but I used to play in middle school. I don't know if I told you that. I used to play basketball in middle school and elementary school. My mom used to force me. I hated it. Um, but it was fun. I'm one of those kids that's like, or guys that's like I'm okay at every sport. Like I can play every sport and just get by. And I kind of
yeah.
understand how, except for golf. Golf, forget about it. Golf is the hardest sport I think I've ever played, and it is the most frustrating sport I've ever played. Where like that whole thing I just said goes out the window. I mean, that is the only sport that I was out of the sports I've played that I was just ass.
Golf, golf is the hardest sport with with a ball. The hardest sport with a ball is golf. And if for anyone who's ever interested in playing golf, I would always say don't go and buy yourself a pair of clubs. Maybe go buy a 6 iron and a putter and go take lessons in golf. See, I got very lucky because my grandfather was a golfer, and so I and he was a pro golfer at one point in his life, and so I just stuck with him, and I got all those lessons for free and
Yeah.
had a lot of fun playing with him. So, and it's very peaceful too, man. When you're out there in nature, just all you see is green, and it's just a very serene feeling. And now I'm kind of a sore loser, so like when I swing and it doesn't go where I want it to, like it's definitely frustrating for me. But yeah, like anyone who's into getting just started into golf, they should go take lessons with the professional because you
Yeah.
could fuck up your back too if you're swinging the wrong way. You could Yeah, you could really fuck up your back.
I think my favorite part about playing golf is the golf carts. I think that's about it. That was I was like, all right, guys, you guys play. I'll just be the designated chauffeur, and I'm totally fine with it. So
Yeah. I haven't played in a minute, but I'm looking forward to this summer to getting out there with my Emily's grandma,
yeah,
Nana, and play with her because she gets out there as soon as the course opens, and she's filthy like and it keeps you like young, man. Like just she when I see her, she's a ball of energy, and she could still swing that thing and play for someone her age. It's very impressive. Um, yeah. So are you doing any sports right now? Like, are you obviously? I'm assuming no jujitsu, no wrestling for you. You're just kind of locked into the work.
yeah, locked into the work, but like I think everyone needs a sort of getaway and a break from the day to day, just like busting your ass and working and the side, the side business, all that kind of stuff. So I haven't gotten back into like an official sport quite yet. I think COVID happened, and then like it was really hard to go do jujitsu and all that kind of stuff. Um, so my sort of like piece is still every now and then I'll play World of Warcraft. That's kind of my I still I do it every
Best game ever. Best
going
video
back to
game
the
ever.
beginning, man. But like every now and then, you just got to play. Like it
Yeah.
just sort of helps me just wind down. And dude, I tell
Yeah.
you recently, coolest thing ever, man. Like I have this friend named Steven, right?
Yeah.
That I've been close friends with since eighth grade. Him and I have been playing WoW together for I don't know 14, 15 years. And this is a guy I spent so much time with just like every night when I was in high school and then onward just gaming together and talking on like Zoom or Skype or something, right? Or Discord. And we met for the first time after 15 years. Um, 15 years we went, just being buddies online, never meeting in person. And then him and his girlfriend a couple weeks back flew into New York City and we met up. And it was the coolest experience, I gotta say. I mean, it was like, it was like we knew each other forever, which was kind of the case, right? But kind of just kicked off and it was a beautiful experience. I mean, it's something that's gonna, stick with me forever. That first time just seeing him, man, and being like, oh my God, dude, like you hear his voice and you're like, what the hell, man? I'm so used to just hearing you online and seeing you online, and like your actual real person. It didn't catfish me, like it was surreal, man. And I'm even there. I picked him up from the airport And like I had, you know how like those chauffeurs had the name of the person.
Yeah.
So like I'm such a dork. I had like his gamer name like on the paper, and I'm like holding it. And then he sees me and just gives me a hug. It was just so funny, man. It was just such a wholesome moment.
Yeah.
Finally getting to meet after 15 years, and we had a blast.
So what made him come to the city? Was
He's
it
from
were you guys meeting? Were you guys what did he come to meet up with you, or was it for other
Yeah,
reasons as
yeah. He had
well?
some time off from work, and him and his girlfriend live in Montreal. They're French Canadian, and so they had off for like 4 days, and he's never been to New York City, so he was like, let's go to New York City, and then let's meet Bick. Bick is what he calls me because that's like my gamer name is Bickles. So so funny
Is
stuff.
can I is it cool if I put your gamer name? If you could send it to me after this and that, if I could put it in like the video,
Sure, yeah. People
because
find people find
I know
me. Yeah,
because I know you're filthy. Like you're like an OG when it comes to World of Warcraft, which I always saw you play. And I honestly, it's one of those games where I could just sit and watch someone play, and it looks fun. Like it's just fun watching someone play. It's kind of like Fortnite when Fortnite
yeah.
first, for me personally.
I
Um,
always loved it because like you're exploring a whole nother world. So like it's a MMO, massive multiplayer online role playing game, and I always loved it because that was my getaway. So like when I was, as you know, like when I was in sixth grade middle school, my mom died. She had a she had a stroke or an aneurysm like literally right in front of me, and it was one of the hardest things I ever had to go through. And you kind of grew up really fast after that happened, and I needed a getaway. And so when I moved in with my dad. My parents split when I was young. So when I moved in with my dad and came to Jersey, I left South Carolina after my mom passed, came to Jersey, in high school. And it was really hard for me to kind of fit in and meet people. But I fit in so well, like playing this game and meeting people online because there's a whole community of people that play it. And Steven was one of the guys, one of the first people I met from Canada. There was a guy that I was good friends with from Japan, a guy who's friends with from Cuba, and so like it kind of brought us together from all different places, and I think it's why I loved it. And I owe a lot to it because it's like I think that's what gave me the itch to want to like learn language is because I'd be on calls with these guys and I'd hear one guy speaking Spanish, one guy speaking French, and one guy speaking Japanese, and I'm like, holy crap, like I want to kind of speak with them and fit in. And so French was actually the first language I really kind of jumped into because of Steven, because you know they speak French, but although their French is a little different from France, like French. Um, but yeah, dude, I the game was awesome, man. Like I have such good memories from it. So I think that's why every now and then I still play it. It's like nostalgic, and it's also that gives me a break from like gives the brain a break.
yeah, I would encourage parents to let their kids play video games. I think video games are one of those stimulants uh, that it's actually good for kids.
To an extent.
Uh, yes,
Um,
to an extent.
Dude,
Like, don't be like me playing Fortnite for 2 days straight,
yes.
uh, 48 hours, not showering, smelling like straight up BO. Yeah, that was my experience, obviously, when Fortnite first came out. But
We'd be
yeah, video
gaming till
games.
like 4 or 5 in the morning, dude, and then like I'd sleep, wake up at 1 or 2 p.m., jump in the pool, and then come back in and start gaming again until 4 in the morning the next day. I don't know what it is with like high school dudes just like not wanting to shower. I don't know. I just like gaming is just I guess just kind of takes you over your life. So I would just say gaming I think is important. I mean I think it's definitely cool, but you need to have like a stop time, like a limit, how
For
much
sure,
because otherwise
for
it gets
sure,
out of hand.
balance.
But I
Yeah.
also it's funny. I was talking to my girlfriend Rosa about this. Like, like yeah, gaming is great and I love it. Imagine though if I took all that time I played and put it into a skill or something else. Like, I don't know. I
I
always
think
think
video
of that.
games is a skill. I think video games
I
is a
could, yeah, oh,
skill.
100% it's a skill. I mean, you see some of the high end esports gamers play like 100%, but like, imagine like just taking all that time and putting it into something else, like playing an instrument or doing something like that. So I'm always my biggest critic though. So like, I'm always hard on myself about gaming, even though I think like it helped me like develop me a lot of who I am. But
Dude,
I just
you gotta take it easy on yourself. I think, yeah, you are stopping too hard on yourself. You're Yeah, I think we all could sometimes be the harshest critics of ourselves, but yeah, take it easy. Like you are, yeah, you're above and beyond.
Appreciate it, but so lots to go. But I feel like what was I saying? I mean, uh,
You were talking about being a critic of yourself and video
yeah,
games and how you could have used that time to maybe learn a skill. But I think,
it all worked out.
you
It
know,
all worked out. I
yeah,
think
of
that's
course
the
it did.
important thing.
Like
Um,
you would never met you would have like never. I think about that. I think about what you said, and I think about like if you didn't do that, you would have never met this guy, Steven, who you're, obviously really good friends with. You would have never, you even tied how gaming, you tied gaming into how i- interacting with languages and wanting to learn languages. So you never would have even learned
no,
possibly even different languages. Go ahead.
you're
What were you
totally
gonna say?
right, man. Yeah, you're totally right. And you just gave me another like interesting idea, and this ties it back to the whole theme of the business stuff we've been discussing. Is that I owe a lot to WoW, and just to gaming in general. And one of the things I love about you know, being an innovator, and I think what creates really new cool ideas is taking an idea and applying it to like something totally different that has never been done before. And so one of the things I'm really excited about right now is how can I take gamification and gaming and like apply it to healthcare, or like how can I take gaming and like applying it to like networking and connections. And so I actually, this is like hot off the press, but I've been working on another business idea too. That is the intersection of gaming and networking, and what can I do with that kind of stuff, because I think gaming is a really good way to help people sort of build habits, and help with behavior change, um, because I mean I've seen that firsthand with being a gamer myself. I think people are motivated to do things if there's competition, and if there's a gaming component to it, if you're like tracking how well you're doing. Because I know for me too, like I'm always like I said, a big critic of myself, and so I'm always trying to compete with myself to be better. And so, long story short, I mean, my that's sort of my innovation approach too of how I do business stuff and think about things is like, how can I apply things that or get applied? Like, how can I take things that work and then apply them to a totally different field to see what happens? And so, I love gamification, man. I love the idea of gaming, and I try and think about how can I apply it to other things that I do
Yeah.
in my life.
I, that's such an interesting
That makes
point you
sense.
make. I think, yeah, about gamification. And I don't want to make this negative, but I think about how stock trading has become gamified, where Robinhood pretty much took that concept of investing and they gamified it to a lot of people, where they're just heavily option trading, risky option trading, and it's either if the stock goes up or down, like within a matter of minutes, you either lose all your money or you make a shit ton of money. So yeah, gamification. Interesting. How do you see it playing out? How do you
The
see it
idea
apply?
is
Yeah, how do you see it? Like, how would you apply it to real life? Do you see like, is it like virtual goggles where you're playing a game and you're also networking?
it's more of like a, yeah, it's no, not in the VR space, although that is a cool idea and something for me to think about down the line. But no, I mean I'm thinking of just a simple gamified app. So simplicity is key. That's the one thing too. Like you don't want to develop something that's overly complex, and it makes it difficult for users to actually engage with. I mean the idea is simple. I don't want to let the cat out of the bag too much yet. But basically it's reward. Okay, so the thing that I've been thinking about lately is how do you quantify how good of a connector you are? Do you like LinkedIn doesn't, like, you have LinkedIn connections, but that doesn't mean you're a good connector. That just shows that you're good at pressing a button to connect with
Yeah,
people. Um,
yeah,
how do you quantify how good of a connector you are? And that's something I've thought about a lot because I've had people call me, "Hey Jack, like this is one thing I love, by the way, at work. Like I love connecting people. Like I think that's like, yeah, I'm a project manager, but I love, you know, hearing from someone. I say, hey Jack, I have this idea, and I'm like, oh my god, like you should connect with so and so because they're doing exactly what you're doing, and I think you all could create something like really awesome. And so like that kind of stuff is like me to a T, where I love being that connector. And I had someone be like, wow, Jack, like you're like a master connector or a super connector. And then I had that thought of like, why though? Like why am I a master connector, super connector? Like how do I quantify that? Like
Hmm.
how do I explain that? And so I thought about creating a sort of gamified app um, where people get points for facilitating different types of connections and helping people kind of bring together, kind of connect. And so it's kind of like Google reviews meets like a connector, and you can get rated and graded on how good of a connection you are, a connector you are, and get points for it. And then there's like a whole ranking system, and then there's incentives built into it and awards built into it. And so the better you are at connecting, and the higher sort of you work your way up, the more incentives you get. And the reason I want to do that is because I want to encourage people to be connectors and encourage people to want to help others. And I kind of think that the gaming aspect of making it sort of competitive and giving people
Mm.
incentives and sort of a ranking structure, I think incentivizes and helps drive behavior change and actually make people want to utilize this kind of platform. Because like a lot of the struggle I see now is I'm in an alumni association. I'm actually like a vice president, vice chair, and all the time I'm reaching out to my alumni to ask them to help me with giving students opportunities and connecting with students. So advising them, mentoring them, giving them an internship experience, letting them shadow you. And a lot of times, whenever I reach out, I hear crickets. Everyone's so busy with their day job, like no one wants to help. And so that's sort of where the idea came about too. Is like, what the hell can I do to try and incentivize these guys to want to help people? And sort of help students get their foot in the door. And so I had this game idea, and again, I was thinking it's funny. I was looking at World of Warcraft, and World of Warcraft has a ranking system in it. So like it's very PvP based. So it's like you fight other players around the world. So you can fight people, and if you beat them, you get points. And then if you beat a certain amount of people, you get different rankings, which shows how good of a player you are. And so I was like, light bulb moment. Like, well, I love this stuff. How can I apply it to just networking and helping students? And then that's sort of where that idea came about. Let me develop a gamified app um, to help people with connections and see how it goes and give people rewards and ranks and stuff like that. And so it's been hella. It's like, but this has been so much fun. I'm actually having like more fun thinking about this than the initial database thing I was telling you about. But more to come. I'm hoping maybe in the future when I have it actually developed and fleshed out more, we could talk about it again for sure.
So
But
if
any
I'm
questions on
understanding
that?
this, yeah, that's a pretty cool concept. So if I'm understanding this correctly, it's pretty much you're saying, let's say if someone is looking for a nursing job and there's another person, a second person comes across a job that says, "Oh, here's a nursing job that I see it posted for." They take a picture of it, they post it, and then now they've kind of bridged that gap of someone who's looking for a nursing job,
Yeah,
and the person who's hiring. So, and then the person who, the middleman, the person who's taking that picture, that post, would get some sort of incentive.
yeah.
Okay,
They're the
and they will,
connector.
right? Okay,
So and then the person that's
that's a cool concept.
and then the person
That's a
that's
pretty
a
cool concept.
seeker, yeah, and the person that's a seeker that's looking for an opportunity can like rate the person of how helpful they were. Did they just give me minimal effort, or did they give me something that's freaking like huge that's going to help me secure a position? And then that person is the one that would give the points to the connector, and then it just gives people that are connectors like a
Yeah.
chance to quantify that kind of
That's
stuff.
that is so interesting. Again, I said this earlier. I love having friends that are solving for real life problems. I think this is another real life problem that networking is dying. The way like old school networking, where you go to, well, at least I think this, where and I could be wrong, where the old way of connecting isn't working, where you go to these workshops and you meet people, maybe. Yeah, go ahead. You want to say something to that? Or
No, I
maybe
mean,
it is.
no, I mean that works that way. I mean, like, but what I want to say is like let's just cold emailing people nowadays, or just applying to a job or sending a resume isn't going to cut it. Doesn't cut it
Yep,
anymore in this job
yep,
environment. It's
yep,
so
yep.
oversaturated. Some people looking for jobs. And so many people are applying to positions that hiring managers just don't have time to go through everything. And so you need to do something to make yourself stand out and step above. And a lot of times it's not what you know, it's who you know. Like what
Yeah.
connections do you have? And I think that's something I learned earlier in my career, and I think that's probably one of the most important things that has made me been so successful is that I'm not afraid to sort of make those connections and reach out to people, and I put myself out there. Like you got to put yourself out there. Um,
Can I
and
ask you a question?
yeah,
As a super connector, what
yeah.
do you see that most people are doing wrong when it comes to connect connecting with others,
A lot of people,
specifically for a job?
yeah, a lot of people when they connect with folks, they take this, they sort of approach it of like, what do I get out of this? Like
Mm.
me, like, oh, I want to talk to you because, I want you to give me a job. Like, no, it doesn't work that way. Like, you need to build a relationship first. And I see so many students do that. Hey, Jack, I see you work at Rutgers. Like, can I get a job? And I'm like, no, like, I don't know you. Like, like why? Like, why you? Um, I think people need to approach it in the opposite sense of what can I do for you? How can I help you? People that I've seen that have been the most successful reaching out offer someone something in first. So instead of me saying, "What can I do for you?" Amir, I'm gonna be like, Amir, if I want to make a connection for you, connect with you and whatever, I'm gonna do something that helps you and benefits you initially in my initial outreach. Hey, Amir, I was looking at your podcast. I loved it. I shared it with some of my friends to help you out. Because I'm so passionate about what you're doing and the topics you're talking about. I think approaching it in that lens where you're actually providing value to the person you're reaching out to first, I think is the best practice that you could do when you're reaching out to someone for something. Um, and I don't see that happen
That's brilliant.
often. I don't see that happen often. It's always the opposite.
What do they do? What do they do instead? Can
Yeah,
you tell
no,
me?
hey Amir, here's my resume. Take a look at it. I know you have a busy schedule, so I'm going to send you my resume to look at. And then can I get a job or something like
Yeah.
that? Or this, I just had this happen. Someone reached out to me who I just connected with, asking me for a recommendation. I don't know you. Like, why would I write you a recommendation for a job if I just met you? And that's like it's such a red flag. Like if you don't know someone, that's like me, Amir, not knowing you and applying to
Yeah.
something and saying, hey, Amir, like I'm really enamored by the work you do. Like, can I get a recommendation letter? You're gonna be like, what am I gonna write? I don't know anything about you. Like it's just not right. So and I see people do that quite often. A lot of like students that are like about to graduate, um, or recent graduates, and that's a big no-no. Like it's all about relationship building. I think that's the mindset you should have is not what this person can do for me. It's more so what can I do for them and how can I cultivate our relationship? Because if you build that relationship with someone, then they'll be more willing to help you out and do something and sort of help you out and make connections for you. And even if someone, that's the other thing too. Like I get so many students reaching out to me, that like a lot of times I can't help every single person. But what I try to do is at least pass them on to someone else that I think could help them. And so that I think that's like, and also the important thing of being a super connector is that. But yeah, I think like students, especially undergrads, like there needs I wish there was more trainings or things available to them to kind of help them with understanding the world of networking and making those connections. Um, so I think that's kind of why I really am excited about this app design. Um, but again,
Yeah, I was gonna tie that to what you were saying. I feel like the app you're working on it seems like it's solving for a pretty big piece of that where you have a mentorship and then you have an internship process, right? So you're connecting and you're bringing some sort of value to the person who's mentoring you, and you're also getting some sort of value from that person.
'cause I think one of the things that I just recently started a mentorship program at my university, and I'm paired up with one of the senior like associate deans, who's an amazing servant leader, and he's been mentoring folks for a long time. And I ended up writing up. We had to complete a document to outline what are our goals for this mentorship program. Like, what do I want to get out of it? But what I noticed is that in the form, there was no question asking my mentor what they want to get out of this program. And so I asked my mentor and I was like, hey man, like, I kind of feel like this is really one-sided. Like here are all my goals that I want to get out of this and how I want you to help me. But like, how can I help you like grow as a mentor and grow as a leader? And like, what do you want to get out of this yourself? And I think a lot of people don't think of it that way. They think of
The
mentorship as a
student
one-sided thing.
becomes the master, is what I
Yeah.
think of.
I think a
The
lot of people don't see
student
it that
becomes
way.
the master. Yeah.
it's a two-way street. It's really what it is. And that's exactly the answer that my mentor gave me. He was like, Jack, like I see mentorship as a two-way street. He was like, I want to help contribute to your goals. And then watching you succeed helps me sort of, like grow as a leader myself. And it also fills me with pride that I'm sort of giving back and contributing and helping someone sort of make their way and make their way forward in life. So, and then also he was like, I'm going to learn a lot from you. Just like, you meet, everyone is unique. No two people in this world are the same. And so by mentoring someone, you're going to learn something, from them 100%. And I think that's the other thing that my mentor is excited about in working with me is he's like, Jack, I feel like I'm going to learn a lot from you, you know, things that I wouldn't have known if I didn't meet you. So, it's a mentorship's two-way street. And I think people need to know that. They need to remember that.
I also think mentorship is very time consuming. Like it takes
Maybe
both parties to really to be on the same page. Almost like a relationship where like if one person doesn't really want to do it, it's like it's gonna eventually flail out at one point.
mentorship takes preparation because, especially as a mentee, you don't want to waste your mentor's time. You don't want to um, come to a meeting unprepared. You want to have an agenda. You want to have your questions ready. You want to be well prepared for that because again, this is a professional, usually going to be a professional that you're meeting with, right? That's super busy, that's taking their time out of their day to help you out, right? And so that's one of the biggest things about some of these like mentorship programs is that like you got to make sure you're ready. Um, that's one thing that we're taught on. But at the same time, too, there's so many different types of mentorship programs out there and things out there. They all have different structures. Some are more formal, some are not. It really depends on what you're doing. And so some have more commitments than others. I mean, my commitment in my program is I just have to meet with my mentor once a month. Isn't really a lot, to be honest, if you're thinking about it. But that's sort of the minimum. But what we've started to learn is, it's sometimes it's better for us to meet a little bit more often. Just so, like you said, like, it's really building a relationship. And it's hard to kind of get to know someone just 1 hour meetings every month. So I typically see that mentorship programs that sort of meet more often, especially with like an in-person component, are usually more effective in my opinion.
Yeah, especially at a professional level when you're in the C-suite position or with who are people in executive leadership, their time they really value their time where and their attention span is not that it's small, but it's like when you're meeting with them, you want to be, my friend says, 1, 2, 3, like give them be very direct and very clear in terms of what you're trying to communicate because of their time is very important to them and like you said, have an agenda. Um, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. But
So
networking is key. Connections are key. Mentoring is key. One of the things I always tell my students too, is when they're looking for roles, looking for positions. This might be a little counterintuitive what I'm saying, but no, you got to put yourself out there. And I always love to tell my students, look at the organizations that you want to work at and the type of jobs you want to work at and connect with those people and reach out to those people. For me in my role, I've always reached out to the highest ranking person I could find at a company that I wanted to work and and see if they reply to me. You never know, but I would always reach out and say, hey, here's how I can offer value to your organization, your company. Do you have, is there any way that I could help? Even if it's voluntary, how can I get my foot in the door? Because I think that's one of the most important things is getting a foot in the door. Because once you're inside an organization, there's usually lots of opportunities for lateral movement. So I always tell my students, pick someone, even if they're an executive, shoot them a message, send them an email, follow up with them. The worst thing that's going to happen is they just don't answer you, and it's like kind of that saying where like you miss all the shots you don't take. I know it's a little cliche, but it's like go for it. Like you have
it's
nothing to
true.
lose.
It's true.
So I
Yeah.
always tell my students that. My students like that's always the good. That's always students are like, oh man, that's great advice. So
Yeah, it's no, but it's
helpful.
so true though. Like when I as you know, I'm getting this podcast going and I had to reach out to there's a lot of people that I find interesting that I would love to have on that I would have a discourse and see what they think. And one of those people was Kamala Harris. I reached out to her campaign. to see if they would be interested in coming on the podcast. Donald Trump, um, his campaign, see if he would be interested in coming on the podcast. Now, of course, like
You're a
that
savage
is
though.
very,
Yeah, that's
but
like
that is,
that's
like
awesome.
they'd be like, who the fuck is this guy on
It just
YouTube,
takes
Amir
one.
Khan?
That's the thing. It just takes one, dude. You get like you shoot those shots, you give it a go. It just takes one person to reply, and
Yeah,
then you're off to the races. That's usually
yeah.
that's
Yeah, so I've made a goal to reach out to at least X amount of people once every week, and ask them to come on the podcast, whether they respond or they don't.
yeah.
But you got to put in the work, and yeah,
And that goal
that's
setting, like
that's
you said, is so important too. And that goes back to habit building. Like you want to set goals to give yourself a target, to keep yourself on track, to make sure that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, and so that you held yourself accountable for that kind of stuff. If you don't set yourself a goal, you could slack off or like not move forward. So goal setting is
yeah.
so important. That's like what I do in my job as a project manager all the time is set sort of goals, strategic goals and planning of what we're trying to do for the year. But that's I sorry, I love goal. I love networking, I love connections, I love talking about goal planning. It's all really important stuff in the professional space.
Speaking of goals, and then I know we're like in March now. Today's March 1st. Do you do any resolutions?
Yeah. So well not
You
New
do?
Year's resolutions really. I mean, um like I feel like I never saw the point of like doing New Year's resolutions. I just feel like you could set resolutions whenever you want. Like why, like I don't know. But I don't necessarily set like New Year's resolutions. I want to go to the gym more or something like that. But Rosa and I will sit down. It's I guess the beginning of the year, but it's sort of sporadic, depends. And we'll set financial goal, we'll set a travel goal, and we'll set a professional development goal. Sometimes we'll have more than one goals in each of those buckets, but financial might be, we want to, get up to $50,000 saved in cash in our account, right? So we can use that to start building a down payment for a house. Professional development might be, to complete a course, complete a program. Like for me, like I'm starting to think about doctorate programs, like PhD or DOPH programs. And so my goal for this year is to start getting my application submitted. So that's my like professional development goal. And then a travel goal is I need my passport. Your boy still don't have a goddamn passport, which is crazy. And I get yelled at all the time about it. And so I want to get my passport so that Rosa
I'm
and I
sure
can go
half of
back
the
to a
people
normal
listening to this
country.
podcast, I'm pretty sure that half of the people listening to this podcast don't have a passport.
Yeah, blame my parents for it. No, I'm kidding. No, it's my own fault. But my parents were like, growing up, like,
But
oh, you don't need a passport. Like, why do you want to leave like the United States? I'm like, because I want to see what the world like and meet people. But um,
they've also made that like the passport process. Not that I know about it, but I've heard from secondhand people about the passport process. It's very tedious. We live in a world where you can order Uber Eats anytime you want. You could chat GPT the shit out of everything, but yet we have these old archaic systems within our government that are archaic. Like make it like streamline them, update the system, do maintenance on the system where it's where it's keeping up with the 21st century. So from what I heard, the passport process is very tedious and annoying, and I think that's one of the reasons why people maybe don't do it.
Yeah, government
But
processes or systems like that are a pain in the ass. I think that's why I've been procrastinating so much too, is because it's kind of a pain, a hassle to
yeah,
do it. And it's
yeah.
also a decent chunk of money. And then we also got to
Is it
get our good
really?
idea. I feel like I was told it's like a couple $100, if I'm not mistaken,
Okay.
to get it. Um,
I mean,
and I'm
that's
like,
lunch money for you, but
no, it's not. What do you mean? I am a cheap mofo, dude. I think you know that.
you're
But
frugal.
I'm
You're
not.
not cheap.
I'm frugal. Yeah, nah, man. I'm frugal. I mean, yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I just
Yeah, I've known you for a long time. I've never thought you were cheap. Frugal, yes,
yeah.
but so am I in many ways.
What I was gonna say, dude, speaking of things, just total sidebar, NJ Easy Pass, they need to work on that app, my boy, because it was, dude, I don't know if you know if you could help me out here. How do I turn off auto pay on Easy Pass? I have no idea how to do it.
Good
Dude,
luck.
it's
Good
like
luck.
and it's intentional. It's so intentional. They do that shit on purpose. I know they do that on purpose. they make it hard so it just like they make it hard so you can't unsubscribe or like turn it off on purpose so that you don't do it. And it is infuriating. I can't stand when companies do that where they make it really hard to unsubscribe. It just to me that's like that's so fake. It's so fake. And if you have to do that for your product, that means your product is ass. Sorry, just hate to say it.
Yeah.
So,
So I'll get into the Easy Pass in just a
all right,
second,
I
but let me tell
digress.
you, but let me tell you about a conversation I was having with the wifey the other day about how so well, she's been donating to this cancer patients for like a very long time. It's like a $20 a month subscription, and every month we have a Khan family finance meeting. And so we're looking through, stuff and we find this line item where it's like recurring and it's been happening for years.
Yeah,
And but this was many, many months ago we were having this conversation. And she was like, I try to turn this off to unsubscribe and she's like, they wouldn't let me. Like she's like the website that I logged into no longer works. So then I had to reach out to my bank. My bank said to do this. So then I r- reached out to this number and then they had me on wait for so long. So to your point, it's they make it hard on purpose.
yeah.
Um, but she felt bad because she was like, I'm unsubscribing $20 a month from a
It's a good cause.
it's a good cause, exactly. So I think she just said, "Fuck it, whatever." They could have $20 a month. It is going for a good cause. But to your Easy Pass point, we also had a discussion about Easy Pass about 2 weeks ago because we were trying to switch over from where they were taking the payments out of. So we had a Wells Fargo bank account, and fuck you, Wells Fargo. If anybody has a Wells Fargo bank account, like, dude, get rid of them ASAP because they are predatory in so many aspects. And you don't have to listen to me. You could look it up yourself. They've, stolen billions of dollars from people, especially uh people in urban areas where that are from a different country. I'll say that. So we were trying to switch over for the payment method from EasyPass to a different bank, and I am kind of a stickler in terms of like writing everything down of like username and logins and passwords and email. So I have all this stuff in my phone and I log into EasyPass and it just like wouldn't let me. And it would ask me then eventually like I got to the security question and I know the answer because I have it in my phone and I remember like typing it multiple times and it just wouldn't let me go. And then eventually it did let me go through. So and then I was able to switch it over. But yeah, they make this shit really hard on purpose.
Yeah,
So people just get frustrated and tired. And in that case, I would say just call up your bank or your credit card company and say, "Hey, I am being charged this. I need you to help me out." And I think credit card companies and banks are actually good with that. They'll help you out with that. They'll cancel the payment. Um, yeah. And speaking of Easy Pass, remember we were talking about businesses. Remember the
I
company
know.
that Emily had started, and well, it was her idea, and then her and I kind of picked it up, and we were building an application for it. This was we called it Voyage. Well, she called it Voyage. It was like a digital Easy Pass where it's an application on your phone. Anytime you go through a toll, it just kind of takes it out of your bank rather than an Easy Pass and how Easy Pass, and we've had this discussion where these companies have a monopoly within a
Yeah,
they have a monopoly within certain states. So Easy Pass, for example, is within 13 states in the East Coast, and then there's Sun Pass that's maybe in Florida. Then they have like a
right.
California different system. So yeah, and we were saying fuck that. Why don't we create an app that is accepted in all 50 states, um, rather than yeah, but
You know what it kind of reminds me
we
of? You ever go
yeah
into and this has been new to me, but maybe it's been around for a while, but Journal Square and you're like taking a path and you can just tap your phone
yeah
like to like enter. That to me is like cool shit. Like I think like
it's so seamless. What's
easy.
amazing is that took them so long to figure that out, like
Yeah.
to have a system where it's just touch because I've been a commuter to the city for many years, and so I like many people had the yellow Metro card where I would had to fill it up, and then swipe and then get you know go across. Now it's just a tap. It's so easy. And so it ties into like what we were talking about, how there's so many archaic systems that we have that we need to do upgrades on. And
Yeah.
Passport
Like
is one of those things, I
yeah.
think.
And the freaking Easy Pass app, like literally it says auto pay and on, like in big letters right there. Why can't I just turn that off? Like why can't I just toggle it off? Like it just
So
drives
what
me
did you do? What did you do? Are you still kind of
nothing.
stuck with it?
The good news is like I don't think it's like a sub. I think it's just what happens is once you get under a threshold, it auto charges. I just
Yeah.
don't want it to do that. Like I just want to be in control when I do it, right? And like, um, it's just infuriating that it just kind of like hooks. It's just kind of it's like puts its hooks in you, and you can't change it. I don't know if the word's predatory. I think you said that, but it just feels like it. It just feels scammy. Like I just like if you have to have that in your product where you make it hard for people to leave, I think it just says something about your product and your business. But
Yeah.
um,
Well, hey,
yeah,
dude, I think we've been going for I don't know how long for some time, for sure. I think we're like close to 2 hours at this point. At least it feels like that to me.
for a minute I thought you didn't have record on because I didn't see that.
Can
I was
you
like, dude, that would have sucked.
uh, can you
Would
fucking
have been
imagine? I would have been pissed, but I don't think I would have been pissed for a slight second, but then I would have been okay because I know we could do this shit anytime we really want to.
yeah, we hang out all the time, and I mean, this is kind of natural anyway. So definitely
Yeah.
though, like lot less sound effects and silly banter.
I say
But
we do it for the
maybe
fuck of it. Just say, oh,
oh hi, alrighty. I feel so awkward doing it though because other people are gonna see it. It's between us, Amir. No, I'm kidding. But
dude, it's between you, me, and
oh,
the squad.
yeah,
And yeah, big a queen cuck, right?
yeah. Just for everyone
I called
knowing. Oh, go ahead.
no, go yeah, I was just gonna say I called someone a cuck the other day at work and
Such a
and and they were like, "What do you mean cuck?" I was like, like they're cuck like they're a cuckold?" And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, they're a cuckold." But
it
anyways,
came, no, it's fine. It's funny. That's another thing that for me originated from World of Warcraft because like kids would get mad at each other. Oh my God, you killed me. You're a cuck. And it's like I think like gaming
yeah,
world, like that kind of stuff. It's such a that's the only thing like that's really annoying about WoW is they have these like chat channels and it's such like a toxic like masculine environment. And so to people like being cucked is like the worst thing imaginable. And so it's like the worst insult you can give like a guy like a I think a gaming dude, right? So that's sort of where the word came out. But just for the audience to know, in college when Amir and I lived together with the crew, I was known for my sound effects. And then sometimes we just call each other cooks. And that kind of just
yeah,
it's a totally joking matter. We don't mean any offense by it. It's just something that's been fun banter between us as a group. I think we all have nicknames. It's
yeah,
just how it is.
yeah. So to give some background, you had walked in. I think we were hanging out in Tommy's room, and you walked in and you said, "What's up, Cucks?" And then
Yeah.
like to
It's been a
to
wrap
these
ever
guys,
since.
that I think you had just met, and it just stuck, and like it was funny as fuck, and that's what I love about our friend group. It's they're just good people, and I feel very happy about the people that I have in my life because I think they've all made me a better person and
Yeah.
motivate me in some aspect to just be better. Yeah.
I think
So
Amir, I
good
mean I totally agree with
friendships.
you. I think you should do a future podcast with all of us together on a call and just have a good time.
So I had Nick on, and I think I did such a disservice to Nick because I truly think he is funny as fuck.
Oh yeah,
But I think I did myself a disservice because I wasn't prepared for it, but I think more so I was just nervous
for
because
sure.
it's something that I'm just getting into. Not I should stop saying that, but it was definitely newer to me.
Yeah.
So yeah, there was the nerves were high, and it probably wasn't a good thing that I was high as fuck. So yeah,
It's all good. Hey, but things take practice,
yeah,
man. Like we talked about
yeah.
public speaking in the very beginning of the podcast, right? Like things take time and practice, especially this is a new sort of newish venture that you're embarking on, and I think it's a good thing. But I think it'd be really fun to have a Yamly reunion podcast where we all
For
come
sure.
together
So
and
I'm having Eddie on next, by the way.
oh sweet, oh man, yeah,
Smedge.
he's
I'm
gonna.
having Smudge.
I
I'm
feel like
having
he's good at
Smedge.
this kind of stuff, so I think
He's great.
you'll have a good podcast. He's just a
I
naturally
gotta
funny dude.
I gotta tell him like he's the person who really motivated me to start the podcast, honestly. And it's because he had something similar where he was doing on Spotify, but
Yeah,
it wasn't a
yeah.
video. I think it was more of a call.
It was sports
And
focused or something, right? If I remember, I can't like something like that.
I remember listening to an episode with his grandma, and it was a variety of
Oh,
different
maybe not.
topics.
Wait, it was with
I
was with
think
his grandma.
what no he had he did an episode with his grandma,
Oh, so okay.
and I remember listening to that one, and it was about books, about different guests he had on,
Cool.
life experiences, and just random shit,
So,
honestly.
so
So
maybe not
it's
sports
similar to
focused then.
yeah, no, it wasn't sports focused, but similar shit to like what I'm doing, where it's just kind of like I have a guest on, and we converse. You know, we talk about different things.
Eddie George in the house spitting some bars for your audience. Um,
Yeah, but hey, man, it was really good to have you on. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, dude, I had a blast, man. This is like my first time ever doing something like this, but I mean, it just feels natural because you and I always sort of have these kind of chats anyway. So it was a good time, man. I want to thank you so much for having me. It was fun, and hopefully you'll invite me back again in the future. Maybe talk about like a networking, professional development sort of part two session. But happy to be on here, man, and good luck.